we're going to talk about threads. So in class, I've given you this handout so we can understand some of the terminology for major diameter, minor diameter, root, and crest. You need to understand how to find the threads per inch and using the threads per inch to find the pitch of a thread, because that's what we're going to need in order to construct the different types of threads. So if you need this handout, it's in our Canvas file, and I'll also try to link it in the YouTube video. So we're going to be in AutoCAD. We're going to start with the Sharp V thread, or this is also called the American National or a Unified National thread. So I've written a specification here for the thread. So it's a 2 1/4 5 UNC 3A thread. Okay, so the major diameter is going to be 2 1/4. Okay, that is the 2 1/4. 5, that is your threads per inch. Then you have your series, your class, and it's an external thread. So the numbers we need to construct this thread are the 2 1/4 and the 5. So the 2 1/4 is our major diameter. So I've just kind of given our center line here. I'm going to make this like 3 inches for the thread. So I've offset us some construction lines. So let's offset the major diameter. So the major diameter is 2 1/4. Half of 2 1/4 is 1 1/8. So we're going to offset that up from the center line and down. Okay, so that is now the major diameter of the thread. So let's trim this out. We're just going to clean this up a little bit, and we're going to change some layers. So we're going to make this on the object layer. Now we can start constructing the thread. So I've kind of given you the cheat sheet down here below. So it kind of tells us what to do. So the length, we just made it a length. Like I said, I told you it was 3 inches. Now it wants us to offset P and then half P. Well, pitch, P, is 1 over the threads per inch. For this thread only, it's a little easier to offset if we just kind of make ourselves a tick mark to offset. That's just years of experience. This is just my tip for you, that you can just offset this the easier way and not have to trim as much and erase as much. So let's just draw ourselves a little tick line just so we can offset it across. So pitch, it wants the pitch of the thread offset all the way across along the bottom. Pitch is 1 over the threads per inch. So 5 is my threads per inch. So the pitch would be 1/5. So I'm going to offset 1/5 all the way across the bottom. Okay, so you just keep offsetting that pitch all the way across to the bottom. Okay, depending on how long your thread is. You can also offset a few and then copy if you want, but we're just going to do it this way. Now, on our little cheat sheet, it says half of the pitch. So if your pitch is 1/5, half of the pitch would be 1/10. Again, let's just make ourselves a little tick so we can offset 1/10, which is half of 1/5. You do that one time. Okay, do that one time. Then we're going to offset the pitch the rest of the way across. So our pitch is 1/5. So we're going to just offset that over all the way across. Now, when you're making threads, this one is going to come out even because it's an even number. Not everything threaded is an even distance. So see how this is kind of ending with a half thread here? That may or may not be the case anytime you have a part and you're having to thread it. So you just keep on keeping on with your threading and just let it end where it ends. Okay, so now that we've done this, we need to connect. So watch the point I'm going to pick. I'm going to pick in this lower right hand corner, and I'm going to go up to my little half pitch mark. See, just like that. So that's going to let these threads actually lean, because if your threads are straight up and down, it will not advance into the material you're trying to screw into with your thread. So make sure that they are actually leaning. This is a right-handed thread, so remember with our rule of thumb which way that is going to tilt. So we're just going to move this up. Now you can connect them, or you can just grab some copy command, pop those in. Copy's your friend. Copy one more. There you go. So now we have our lines here that have designated the pitch. Okay, now we need to put in our V's that are going to form the root and the crest. So we're not going to get too complicated with this. Just go to your line command. Make sure your polar is set on 30. Draw yourself an angle, let it snap. Let it snap, and then trim off what you don't need. Let me turn some line weight off so it's not so thick and you can see it easier. Okay, so there's your V. So now let's copy this all the way across. When you're copying this, be aware with your tracking and your object snaps that you are actually on your endpoints. Sometimes these have a tendency to track, and you don't want to move off of your endpoint and end up with these off of your lines. So see how I'm just copying so that I can have this thread exactly where I need it to be. Now, we're going to take these V's and copy them straight down. So that's why I had you make these little tick marks, because I don't need them anymore, and wasn't that super easy to erase that way. Just get them out of the way. I don't need them. So now I'm going to copy and I'm going to take this root of that V and copy it straight down, and notice that it now hits the end of the line at the bottom of that thread. So now you're going to connect root to root. See, root to root. You can use your copy and just copy that all the way across. So that's just going to give you the root and crest of your thread. Look how easy that is. So get rid of your diameter offsets. Let's trim this thread out. Now, on some of our threads, it says chamfer to thread depth. Okay, we're going to chamfer to the thread depth. What that means, I'm going to draw a little bit of this line back. And draw this down here. So I need to chamfer the end of this thread to the thread depth. So if I go to the chamfer command, if I hit chamfer, right mouse click, angle. Typical angle for a chamfer is 45 degrees. So when I hit angle, the first thing that it asks me is the distance. All right, that's the thread depth. I'm not measuring anything. I'm just going to use my mouse to pick the root and pull it straight up. That is the depth of the thread. Then it wants the angle, which is 45. I can pick this line and this line. Look at that. It just chamfered that right off. I'm going to hit enter and repeat my command. There we go. There's our chamfer. So now I can just trim this out. It looks a little odd, but that's okay. That's what the chamfer looks like. Look at that. Okay, so that is your sharp V, or your unified national thread, with a 2 1/4 5 UNC 3A specification. So that's how you draw a sharp V thread.